Hey crafty friends! We have scrapbooking kits again. I am so excited. Now you might be wondering, why am I so excited to have scrapbooking kits? Well, I think of them kind of like a sketch. Although it's kind of like a sketch to the next level. You have all your cutting guides that show you exactly how to cut your paper. You are told what photo sizes you need, and you have the general layout of where everything goes. And of course, this can just be a template that then you switch up, you add more photos, you move things around, you can embellish with other supplies, or you can make exactly as is and whip together some pages in a hurry. I have been using kits with my customers for years. We'd meet every month, build layout kits together, and now having some new choices from Stampin' Up is so exciting. So there is a fall kit, Halloween, Christmas, and winter. And look at these beautiful paperboard pieces that have the wood grain printing on them. Oh, I love these so much. They are super thin, so you're not getting a ton of bulk on your pages, which for me is important. I don't like to make my pages super bulky because I want to have them laying nice and flat in my albums. All 4 of these kits are available right now, and I will link to them down in the description box for you. The reason I'm showing you the fall one is because I am getting ready. I am prepping my kit right now to get together with my customers on Zoom and make these layouts. So I thought I would share with you what the prep kind of looks like and how I get ready so that I can easily pull these pages together in a couple of hours. Super excited to have sticker options. I was just showing you word or phrase stickers, titling options, some icons. It's just so nice for scrapbooking to have some of those pieces that you don't have to create on your own. Now this line has some super cute little critters. I'll just bring this closer so you can see little fox and bear and owl and deer. Super cute. This is the back side of that sheet. We got some sweet little trees. And then we got a good basic grid pattern. And this kind of style of trees, or it could just be triangles, depending on what you're making. And this really subtle pattern, I love when there's good options for subtle patterns because you kind of want your photos to be the focus, and patterns like this work really well to just kind of be in the background. And then we have this green pattern. This is the back side of that one I just showed you. Again, a nice subtle pattern. Now the workshop kits are different from the paper packs. You can just get paper pack with sticker sheet, but in the workshop packs there are custom papers. So these ones are single-sided. There's 2 of them, and we have this beautiful gray wood grain pattern, which if you guys watch my channel for very much time, you know I love wood grain. It's like a basic. Every paper pack, in my opinion, could come with a coordinating wood grain, and I would be very happy. And then we got this pattern with some brown and a little bit of a pink tint to it. There is some pink in this kit, which I have selected photos that have pink in them. So it worked out perfectly. That one is the last of the custom papers. And then we have two-tone cardstock. So Stampin' Up is bringing out two-tone cardstock. And those of us who came over from Close to My Heart are very excited about this because we know how awesome it is to have the 2 different colors to work with. It just increases your options. So you got 2 sheets of that. And I'm going to show you with the light and the dark side so you can see the difference between them. I find it so much easier to match colors, and also there's fun techniques you can do because this paper is a white core, so you can sand it and tear it and all those kinds of things and create lots of nice effects. And we have some white here, 2 sheets of white, and then there are custom die cuts as well. And these just easily pop out from the sheet that they're in and are just another option for embellishing your pages. We've got journaling strips, some leaves. Here we have some kind of like overlay, like striped overlays. These pieces pop out and then you can fill in with these strips. So that's always a fun technique to kind of back and overlay. I'm also probably going to bring in the Changing Leaves bundle. I have gotten so much use out of this. I love this set. Currently, when I'm filming this, it is not in stock, but I believe it should be back in stock by the time you are seeing this video. Hopefully it is. I will link it below for you. So this is a stamp and a die set, and there is also a coordinating embossing folder. And this die actually fits right into the embossing folder, so you can cut and emboss at the same time. Definitely an awesome set. So my first step when I am getting ready to make a workshop kit is to go through and look at what photos, what sizes, what themes. I kind of look at what the title options are, and then I decide on my photos. Now, part of my process for this workshop is that I'm going to add a few more photos than what is shown here. And the first layout, I'm not even doing really a fall theme, so I'm going to be doing a baking page, because a lot of what we do when things start to get cozy around here, I want to bake, and Isabella loves to bake with me. These are pictures from 2022. Like, look at the cuteness. Absolutely adorable. So I have a whole selection, and these are way more photos than what are shown here, but I'm going to use a flip flap to include more 3x4. That's why I have so many 3x4. I even took a picture of the recipe. So I have the recipe that we used in here, which I think is really fun. And then under here, I'm planning to move this title, and I have some 2x2 photos that I want to add under there. So underneath, I'm going to have a little row of 2x2 photos. Now I have a few extras, because usually what I do is I have a grid of 6 photos and I print it out on a 4x6. So if I decide I want more than 3, I can include more of those down here as well, but I will get a better feeling for that once I put the page together. Layout 2, I definitely have some more fall themed photos, a day at the park and walking in the trees, down the path, just some really fun fall photos. This is pretty indicative of an average day of just being out, going to the park, having fun, exploring. And then third layout, I have fewer photos of this, so I think I'll be fairly close to the third layout, although I changed the photo sizes. So there's supposed to be 4 3x3s here in a little grid, and instead of doing that, I have a 3x6, and then I have 2 3x4s that are going to go beside it like this. And I can trim them down to make them fit a little bit better, or I can mat this one a little bit bigger so that they match and make a nice grid, because I saw this extra space right here and I think I'm going to fill that in mostly with photos. So I always start off with my photos first, and then I'm going to start cutting up my paper. And typically I like to follow the guide pretty closely for cutting my paper, unless there's something really obvious that I've decided not to use. But it's easier for my customers to follow along if I follow the cutting guide and then we make alterations from there. So that's what I'm going to do. If you're wondering how you can come and craft with me, well, if you are in Canada and you place an order on my Stampin' Up website, you will automatically receive an invitation to join my private Facebook group, and which also includes you in the Zooms. We have a lot of fun, and it's nice to have those monthly dates where you know you're going to get some scrapbooking done. I'm just going to clear off my desk and then cut up some paper. Now this is where I love the ease of these kits. You don't have to think about what paper to cut, what size to cut it. You just follow the guide. It makes everything super simple. And I've really been enjoying using my Stampin' Up trimmer. It's working really well for me. So that makes this process very enjoyable. Now, when you're looking at the guide, if you've never seen these before, you want to pay special attention to which direction the pattern is going, because for some patterns that does matter. Also, those little scissors indicate where the first cut should be, and you see the lines going in the direction that you should cut the paper. Also, the little asterisk here is indicating that that is the back side, the green side of that paper. So all important things that you want to be paying attention to as you're cutting your paper to help you be happy with the final result. As I'm cutting my paper, I am stacking it up into the piles, so I keep track of what pieces go to layout 1, which ones to layout 2, and which ones to layout 3. That way, when I go to lay it all out and embellish, everything is in the pile that it should be in, and it just makes things a lot simpler. Now here you can see my desk. I have my inks out, I have my specialty paper out, and I have actually gone ahead, prepped everything. This is usually how I start my Zooms. Everything is laid out. I know what I'm doing generally, and it's ready for me to stick it all together and show any techniques. All right, it is a few days later now, and I have completed my layouts. So I thought I would give you a close-up look at how I switched them up and all the embellishments that I added to them. I mostly used the kit, but I also added in some of the coordinating cardstock. So there is a coordinating cardstock pack that matches this collection, and I highly recommend getting it because then you can add on to whatever you're doing in the coordinating colors. Eventually, Stampin' Up! Will have single packs of colors for every color in their lineup, but right now there's only combination packs and then a small selection of single color packs. And these are the two-toned white core cardstock. You could see I have taken advantage of that white core. I used the Changing Leaves hybrid embossing folder, so it embossed them and die cut them out at the same time, and then I just took my sanding block over top and sanded those. Then I have some that I just stamped in coordinating ink, so you kind of get like a two-tone color. And then I couldn't help but add some foil. This is from the Oxidized copper paper, and it kind of has this speckled look to it, and I really like that on these outline leaves. These are from the Changing Leaves set as well. And then all these leaves are from the paperboard set that came in this collection. Now I did move things around a little bit. I did stamp this piece to add to my title and used a coordinating die. This is from the Christmas labels set and the coordinating dies for this one as well to cut that out. And I used all the coordinating cardstock colors that are in that pack to do the leaves and to do like this piece here. So I kept the general design, but I did change a few things. I decided to leave this wood grain as a 12 by 12 and not mat it with the green cardstock, and then put this strip, the sticker strip, at the top instead of the bottom. I saw after I had made these that my friend Crafty Concepts with Erin did a very similar layout on her channel. She just has a little bit different embellishing on it, so you should definitely go check that out as well to see a slightly different version. And then I just repeated those elements for a couple more clusters here. And then I have my journaling over here. This is very similar to the original design, except that I added 2x2 photos in a row below here because I wanted to squeeze in more photos. And I'm also going to be adding flip-flaps. I don't like to stick flip-flaps on until I have my layouts in an album, and then I stick this onto the page protector. But this lets me add even more photos. There's just so many good ones from this little baking session. For layout number 2, I just moved a few of the pieces around. I flipped this over to use the dark side instead of the light side. These pieces, I just moved them into the center so it's more of a continuous design. I like to use post-bound albums, so designs that really flow from one page to the next make a lot of sense in post-bound albums. I did squeeze in some extra photos. I got 2 extra 3x4s and then 2 extra 3x3s. I did more clustering again, and I gave myself some room for journaling with these little tags. I believe these were both from the die cut sheet. Yeah, those are both die cuts. And then I added some linen thread to the tops of them. And these printed leaves here were actually from the kit. And then I added more of my stamped and die cut leaves. Really stuck with the green and the yellow on this one, and using more of those die cut oxidized copper paper leaves as well. And then I also added some of these trees down here at the bottom. So I love how many photos I was able to squeeze in here. And I think it's fun to take that original design of the kit and just tweak it a little bit to fit your photos and fit your preferences. This is the last set of pages here. I had debated whether I wanted to back these pages onto like some white cardstock, but I decided to go with the green just because I felt like it might be too much white with all of this. And then these were all matted in white. This is quite similar to the original design, except I switched out the title for this one from the die cut pack because I loved this title. And then of course I added in my clusters again. I didn't have a ton of journaling for this layout, so I just fitted in here and there where I could, just a couple little lines of journaling. And I really love how these clusters turned out with that little hint of the copper foil in them, the stamping, die cutting. Oh, and then I moved my banners over here and added an extra one to it. I just thought that was a nice element to kind of underline the title. And then I kept this banner arrangement that was in the layout and just added a leaf to it. And then another big cluster down here. I think those large arrangements of leaves just help to pull your eye through the design and definitely reinforce that fall feel. Now that I've showed you the completed layouts, I want to show you what I had left over, and then we can make another layout. So I don't actually have a whole bunch left. These are all the pieces of paper I have, so really tiny little pieces. We got a few strips. You could definitely make some cards out of this if you wanted to, but I do like that I have several 12-inch long strips, which means we could definitely turn these into a background for a layout. And then I have a couple smaller chunks as well. There are some die cuts that I didn't end up using that are exclusive to the kit. These are just paper die cuts. So I could bring in those as well. Lots of trees, a little journaling spot. So a few of those. And then I have quite a few of these ones still left. I used quite a few, but I still have a good number of these left. Some titling options, and then I have a few stickers left as well. I really like this one, and I was kind of sad not to use it, but the layout it was meant for, it didn't fit my photos. So I think I might use this on the page I'm going to make now. So I definitely got some good options and enough to make another layout with. Because of the number of scraps I have left, I think I'm going to go for a single page layout. I could stretch it and do a double just by cutting these pieces in half, just using less paper and stretching it across 2 pages. But I've been making a lot of fall layouts lately, and I think a single page will be perfect for this. Now I debated whether I want to do a white background or maybe a craft background, but I think my pieces are going to pop more off of white than they will off of a craft background. With the craft, they sort of blend in, and the white, they definitely pop more. So I think what I'm going to do is actually mat this. So I've cut my white down to 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. And I think the easiest thing to do with strips is just to run them right across, especially because the direction of my little arrows here, I could go like this. They're supposed to be trees, but they could look more like arrows, and that would totally work. That would also work for my other strip. So I could do vertical, but I think I want to do horizontal orientation. Now my idea was just to do sort of a collage of photos. So I'm not sure how far down I want this, maybe up a little bit more. And then I have a 4x6, 2 3x3s, and a 3x4. And I'm okay if they overlap. I think that would be fine to overlap my photo and kind of have a little collage. And then I want to use this title, definitely goes with these photos. We're playing at the park and, rolling in the leaves and throwing leaves and all those kinds of things. And I think I want to bring more of the changing leaves back in. I was thinking maybe on the white background, or maybe just in some clusters. I went ahead and die cut leaves from the extra cardstock that I had left over, and I have Old Olive, crushed curry, and Cajun Craze is the orangish color, and then I have more of these outline leaves cut from that oxidized copper specialty paper. I love that paper. Once I already had embellishments figured out for my other pages, I figured I might as well just continue that on to this page. They worked so beautifully with this paper. And I also have some phrase stickers I'm going to add in on this layout as well. And then I decided on that white background, we are going to add some white leaves. So this is going to be such a fun textural element. I used the hybrid embossing folder to die cut and emboss these all at the same time. I'm going to lay them out on my white background and then glue them on, and whatever hangs over the edge, I will just trim off. So they will look like they are part of the background. But before I do that, I guess I better get my photos all stuck down and into place and my journaling ready. So I went ahead and printed out my journaling on the computer, just talking about this day. And then I used this die set here, the Greetings of the Season dies, to die cut that once I printed it. And then I also die cut one of my scraps because I like the look of tags layered up together. And I'm bringing in that same pattern that's in the tiny strip at the bottom of all my layers there. My photos are double matted. I have early espresso and white. And I just have a very thin border of each color. I actually would have liked more of the brown showing, but I had already cut the brown before I figured out that I needed to double matte. They just did not pop enough without that white border. So it is what it is, and I think it turned out fine. Now I need to lay out all my white leaves again. I'm going to trim off anything that would have gone under my pattern paper strips, and then adhere it with my Barely Art glue. So this is a little bit time consuming, and you could do a similar look with the embossing folder, but then you have seams of where those pieces would be, because I think the embossing folder is like a 6x6. This way there are no seams. It looks seamless, very textured, and spices up something that would otherwise just be a simple white background. Now there's nothing wrong with a simple white background. You guys know that I love that. But I'd probably be tempted to maybe add some stamping or at least ink the edges. And this is just another way to add detail. I am making sure not to overlap any of my leaves and to try and nestle them together so I don't have too many open white spaces between the leaves. So it did take a little bit of moving things around. I chose not to layer the ends of the leaves underneath the paper because it would add dimension since these are dimensional, and I wanted it to be perfectly flat like it came like that. You know, it's just part of the page. Now I'm using my Barely Art glue. This stuff works so good with that fine tip applicator. Just gets in there and it dries flat. There's no buckling. And I'm just using a very light application over the whole thing. With a fine tip, you really can't put on a super thick application, so it keeps me from being too heavy-handed. And then I can just wiggle it around, line it up the way I want it, press it on there. You'll notice I don't have the craft background on until this point because I had to trim off with my scissors anything that was hanging over the edge. I let it fully dry, and then I went in with my scissors and cut off all the extra little bits that were hanging over. And I just love how seamless this is and the great texture. It doesn't immediately draw your eye right to it, which is the idea, but it does add interest. Now I also want to share with you how I easily did those leaves. Because I did so many between all my layouts, I thought I would create myself a little kind of jig here. So I'm using an old Cricut mat that's lost a lot of its stickiness, and I have cut the die. The die for these leaves is all connected, so I just cut it once so that I have a guide, and then I use that to help me line up my stamps on the door of my stamp platform. I'm using the Tim Holtz one. And then I just fit my leaves in there. Because of the light tack on the Cricut mat, it's sticky enough to hold it, but it's not so sticky that I can't get them off either. And then I'm using paprika ink onto the Cajun Craze cardstock. It's a really good match because I don't have all of the Stampin' Up ink colors yet. I'm slowly building up my collection of inks. And there are a lot of close to my heart colors that do kind of cross over and you can get away with using them. I am stamping on the light side of the cardstock. Remember I said this is the new two-tone cardstock, similar to close to my heart, which means that you can stamp on the lighter side. And that's what I did for my yellow as well. I used saffron ink with the crushed curry cardstock on the light side. And then I do have the old Olive Stampin Pad from Stampin' Up, so I used that one on the green. Now putting these clusters together, I want to have one that's larger underneath my title and then two smaller ones. I wanted to keep the other two smaller, so I'm not going to have every color represented in each of the clusters. For the large cluster, I have one of each color plus some of the specialty paper, but the other two, I wanted to keep them smaller, and so I put the yellow and the orange together, and then down here, I'm going to have just like the green with the specialty paper. I'm bringing in a couple of those phrase stickers as well. Kind of went back and forth of how I wanted my leaves on this one. There was a couple ways that I thought looked good, but I did decide to put my leaves on the end of that phrase sticker. All right, I have finished everything off, stuck everything down, and I decided to bring in one more finishing touch, which is some of the paperboard pieces. I still have quite a few left here that I could use, but I brought in hearts to my clusters and just to add a little bit more embellishment. I think they're subtle, but they fit in really well. And this is what the final layout turned out like. It's so nice to be able to finish up a kit, use pretty much every last scrap. There's really not much left. The remaining embellishments and stickers will just be rolled into my stash since I don't really have any part of the kit to leave it with. I have been working on my embellishment organization, so I'm hoping to share that with you very soon. If you want to see another video where I've used up a full kit or most of a kit, you can click on this video here, and I will see you again very soon.